Bippity boppity.
Bippity boppity.
Bippity boppity.
Boom. Yes. That was perfect.
That was so
Welcome back, everyone, to My Mama Done Told Me. My name's Jeff. I'm the brother in this crew.
Hey, it's me, Lauren, the sister.
And, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special the specialist of
The
guests.
specialist.
The specialist. Ooh, we brought a specialist with us today.
We've got a specialist in the house.
Specialist.
Sitting in the studio for the first episode ever, Mama.
Mama
There
Done.
Hi,
she
everybody.
is. Hi, Ma.
Hey,
Welcome to the Mama Done Told Me
Capsule.
studio.
Cave.
Capsule.
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 We are excited to have you in person for a little while, for hopefully several episodes before you go back to Texas. You've got the rest of the season here.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sound quality just went up a lot.
It
Yes,
did.
it
And I'm real happy about that.
Me too. Me too. So thanks for hanging in there, everyone, with us while we work through the internet. Truthfully, I don't really care if you don't listen to it. I want you to, but if you don't, we do this for us, and you just are a bystander who gets to enjoy it, hopefully. But
Share a little bit of our lives with you.
yep.
Yeah.
So, and it hopefully, I think what I'm most excited about having you in person is no lag.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
No
Because
kidding.
Man.
the response time, when you have to wait and you know that you're responding later than so we talk over each other and everything, it's hard to get used to, but we did the best we could, and here we are in real time.
Yay.
Yeah.
Happy.
Happy.
Happy joy. happy joy. Happy.
Oh, my goodness.
Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
I never watched that one either.
You shouldn't.
Do you ever watch Bones?
Yeah.
I feel like Bones.
You feel
She never gets the joke.
feel
She
like
never
Bones?
gets. She never gets.
Oh,
She never
because
gets the lyrics. She never
I
gets
see.
her
She
name
never
is
gets,
Bones.
the quotes and
Yeah.
the lyrics. And I feel like when I'm on this show with you guys, I feel like Bones.
Well, sometimes maybe.
No, a lot. A lot.
You're just sitting there going,
Yeah, I just kind of smile and then I go, I don't get it.
I don't get it. Okay. All right. So let's get into our topic for this episode. We're on episode 15.
Wow.
We had a different topic lined up, but I decided it wasn't what I wanted to do today. The people in the room kind of know what's been going on in my life these last few days. Unfortunately for our listeners, I'm not going to divulge what that is, but it is relevant to what we're going to talk about instead. Our topic is, if you could magically instill one lesson or characteristic, or however you want to take that, into each of your children, what would it be and why?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, it's a heavy one for me right now, because first of all, you say, like, do I only get one?
Yeah.
Do I get,
Yeah.
and our hope is, as parents or, step parents or guardians or however, whatever your situation is you can instill a lot more than just one. You're working constantly to instill all kinds of good, beneficial things.
Right. Yeah.
That are going to help them to grow and be happy and survive and all of that. But what are the most important ones? What are the ones that, if I could say somehow with my Doctor Strange magic, put it into your being, child, that, and this is something you no longer have to work at. This is just instilled in you.
Right. It doesn't take time to
Build.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I don't know that would be a smart thing. I'm just
Probably not.
But just for the sake of the conversation, what do we think those things are?
Yeah.
Who wants to start?
I can start. I know what I would I think anyway. I mean, I say this if it was actually a thing, I may think a little bit harder about
Right.
it.
Yeah, I dropped this on you guys today.
Right.
so.
Yeah. It was changed very last minute. But I think for my son, what I would instill in him, I kind of tossed around, responsibility and work ethic and that kind of thing. But I feel like he's 20, and I feel like he's kind of getting there in that aspect. So I'm not going to waste it on that.
Sure.
I think he's getting there. He's been holding a full-time job for quite a while, and he's, not asking for money all the time, like,
Right.
like kids are wont to do.
Sure.
And, so then I thought, financial responsibility, that kind of stuff. And I think the thing that I would, the lesson that I would instill in him would be the one that I know that I learned this, and I'm sure Jeff will agree. But when I was growing up as a teenager and a young adult, some of the things that your parents do, or in regards to you and stuff, you don't really understand why, and and it feels like they're being mean just for the sake of being mean, not letting you go to parties, or not letting you,
Or nagging about
yeah,
something.
like making you clean your room and grounding you and doing this and that and the other thing. But once you're an adult and have a family of your own, and even if you don't have a family, it becomes more clear as to why they did things the way that they did. For some people.
Sure.
Some people have parents that.
In a healthy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
like
in a healthy
parent-child
parent.
relationship. Yeah.
Healthy discipline, you're saying.
Right.
like-
Yeah. So when you are thinking like, oh gosh, my mom's just doing this to
Be
make
mean.
make it so that I can't have fun,
She
or
gets joy from
know,
making me miserable.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and in my situation, there was some things going on in our house. I was a single mom at the time, and there was some things going on in our house that I wasn't equipped to deal with, and I ended up having to pass the reins off to my son's father, which killed me inside. And it wasn't something that I ever wanted to do. It was something that I had threatened for years.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would actually go through with it, and I ended up having to. And I think it was for the betterment of everybody, but at the time,
Boy, does that hurt.
yeah. It hurt me. It hurt him. I'm sure he felt abandoned. I'm sure he felt like I just tossed him aside and didn't, and was like, nope, you're tough luck. Like, you've got to. Basically, I kicked him out and made him go live with his dad. He didn't have any other choice. And, I wish that I could instill in him the lesson of, like, I did the best I could with what I had, and this was the next logical step for me, and there was nothing else I could do.
You could almost say maybe some like foresight and understanding, like understand, like if you could have put a little seed into his head that said, all of a sudden you're going to understand why this is happening.
Right.
Not just me saying it, because when you're telling him that, I was obviously around when that was going down. And when you're telling him those things, or any kid, those things, you're having to get through a lot of muck before that gets to the brain, which
Exactly.
is, which is, raging hormones and social things going on and hurt feelings and who knows what else, anger, or all the emotions that lead to anger that we, learned in our anger episode.
Yeah.
And, that's a big iceberg to have to push through.
Right.
And into an underdeveloped brain.
Right.
So you've got a lot of reasonable stuff hitting an unreasonable wall, because a teenage boy is unreasonable.
Right.
Whether, especially in an amplified emotional state.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and if he could have known that, like you said, that climax of when you kicked him out, if he could be in a drone and be way above and of that and
Zoom
see
out,
everything
yeah.
that led up to that. And at some point in his life, he'll understand. He'll look
Yeah.
back and just say the same thing that you
Right.
did, where I understand now why mom did that.
Yeah.
You know, everything that was happening, what the
Yeah,
2 years
what
or
other
whatever
choice
was-
did she have?
Yeah.
You know,
he will
it was
understand
either
it.
it was either let him to continue to do what it is he was doing, and you know,
Probably end up in prison.
or well,
Or
and
worse.
Yep.
I mean, him going to live elsewhere didn't necessarily stop the things that I didn't put up with, but it was for me. Like I had to, or I was just going to continue to get, you know,
Yeah.
and it was good for our relationship because now, you know, I feel like he's beginning to understand why that had to happen and why I had to do that.
Yeah.
If not for anybody else, but for my own mental and physical well-being.
Right.
But also, you know, I wish that I could like jump ahead
Yeah.
to how he'll feel when he has a child of his own, if
Right.
and when he has a child of his own and is, you know, going through something similar, a tough decision, a tough parenting decision that sucks at the time.
Yeah.
And hurts people's feelings, even though it's not meant to be that way.
Right.
And, you know, there's just so many different things that play into it. But like, I wish I could fast forward to that because I think he's starting to understand, but I don't think that he understands fully, you know, and I think that's just something
what-
that comes with
And what kind
maturity
of
and,
right. And
you
what
know.
kind of scars and what kind of wounds happen in those years when you don't understand.
Right.
Because you're telling yourself as a kid, did I get abandoned?
Right.
Was I forgotten about? You know, because you're remembering the pain that came along with this. You know, and if I can, maybe I'll jump into kind of my because
Yeah.
it sort of goes along the same lines. We're going through a situation. It's not the same as what you went through, but
Right.
it's not completely dissimilar either.
No.
And we've had to make decisions that just short of rip our heart from our chests and regarding our kids. So for me, I think at least for one of my kids, the thing, if for some reason I could put that magical seed into their understanding, it would probably be resiliency. If somehow resiliency teamed with, you know, globbed onto self-worth. They go hand in hand, understanding that I need to be resilient to get through the things that don't feel good because I'm worth it.
Right.
Myself is worth it. Life is worth it.
Right.
My family is worth it. You know, the planet is worth it. Being here
Right.
is worth it. This stuff sucks. The good comes, the bad comes. They both go.
And hopefully you learn from it.
Right.
And it builds your character and it builds your
Yeah. And so if somehow that reasoning in a brain, so a kid's brain, you know, one of the things that I remember from psychology courses that I took in college, until a kid's brain is done forming, one of the big things that sets them aside from a fully formed brain is risk versus reward. The balance is different, right? So me as a 40-year-old man, chances are I'm going to understand that reward, that quick reward, isn't probably worth the risk, because the risk factor goes up, the reward goes down. That reward wasn't really worth it, right? When you're still developing, it goes the opposite way, where the risk doesn't seem as much, but the reward seems like everything.
right.
So, and that goes with everything from instant gratification, for example. I know that if I do this, this isn't my situation, but, just to put it into perspective, if I put the drug in my arm, I get an immediate
Euphoria.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Not taking into consideration that risk until it's too late and I'm addicted, Whereas somebody, hopefully, with the adult mind would go, well, there may be some risks to that are not worth that high. That's why everybody isn't putting heroin into their arms right now.
Yeah.
If it was worth that high, then everyone would do it. If we didn't think the risk was more detrimental to us. So especially for one of my children, that it'd be a combination of those two things.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your thoughts on all that, Ma.
Well, I agree with both of you. I mean, I can understand for both of you. And again, these questions, I kind of take them literally. And and I didn't really put like personal things with you guys in because you're grown and gone. And anything I instilled is already done and too late to do anything else. But when I think about overall a child, if I were to put one in a hypothetical child now, my thoughts kind of went, I mean, you can, it's kind of the same as what both of you said, except just coming from a different place. I thought of happiness. I mean, we all want our children to be happy. Ultimately, in the long run, we want our children to be happy, and whatever that takes, we want that. And for children to know that, my brain went back to the Declaration of Independence, where it says, that we want the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And I think it would be important for my hypothetical child to know that happiness is not promised, and it's not a right, it's a pursuit. And pursuit is, I had to look up the actual meaning of it, and it said it's the act of trying to achieve a plan, activity, or situation, usually over a long period of time, which means that pursuit of happiness isn't going to be instant. It's not going to be today. It's going to be probably a lifelong journey of finding maybe what makes you happy, what makes the people around you happy, what makes your life, quote unquote, happy. I think it would be important for my hypothetical child to know that life doesn't owe you happiness. It's not, I mean, whoever your God is, there's going to be trials, there's going to be tribulations, there's going to be ups and downs and positives and negatives. And every negative that you face is just another opportunity. I would want them to know that that negative, bad thing that happens is another opportunity to get up, shake off, and look for the next best thing and keep going and keep trying. Because it is worth it. But there's no promises, and not to be so disappointed in, I'm not happy. Okay, well, let's get happy. Let's figure it out. Let's
work that
keep
direction.
working towards it and find out what it is that can make you happy.
Well, and learning from mistakes too is such a big thing.
Exactly. Well, this didn't work. And that goes along with your resilience,
Yep.
Okay, so the final thing I wrote down, I do better writing than I do talking.
Yeah.
Sometimes off the cuff talking, I get all messed up.
Nope.
But what
Notes
came
are
to my
okay.
mind, and I wrote it down, was that failure isn't final. It's the start of a new, happy, possible success. So
Failure
think
isn't final. It's the start of
failure isn't final. It's the start of a new, possible, happy success.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just not the end. Failure is not the end thing.
And, the things that are important to you and seem like are going to be the end of the world when you're a kid
Oh, yeah.
are so different than when you're an adult.
Yeah.
And that's just, and I know that we all know that. We've all been
We've
there.
all been there.
more technical difficulties, everybody. Great, we're back.
We're going to get this down one of these days.
We love this.
We love when equipment doesn't work.
Just
Okay, Lauren, so go ahead. Please.
Anyways, if we could make it so that the child could zoom out and see
Yeah.
the impact that this one little thing is in high school, as opposed to the whole picture.
Yeah.
It's like a little blip on the map of the, you know, and it's so I mean, at the time, it's important,
Right, and
and we
that's-
don't want to discount that,
Exactly,
Right.
that's-
because that's what can kind of cause shame. It can cause all kinds
a
of weird
lot of things that last into adulthood,
Mm-hmm.
because when you look in how it affects the brain,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you put the brain under a scope or
Mm-hmm.
you know, scans and all that, what happens in the brain is the exact same thing. There's
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
no difference. No difference. So it's just as big. That feeling is just as big as
Yeah.
the worst case scenario as an adult. Because truthfully, if you zoom out, regardless of your age or
Yep.
whatever, in the grand scheme of life or the universe or you know, whatever, that it's all very small. You know,
Yeah.
and that can make you feel little and insignificant and all that, or hopefully it can give you a little bit of sense of
All right,
everything.
we're gonna get up tomorrow, and it's gonna be
I'm going to do the best I can with the
better.
little piece that I have.
right.
So
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I think that's it's really important to not poo-poo those feelings,
yeah,
but also to kind of try to help them put it into perspective. Just because no matter how old you are, like you were saying, no matter how old you are, it's still, I mean, there are things that are really big, you know,
Yeah.
but most of the things that happen when you're young, you know, because we're talking about our children, when you're in high school or younger, you know, it's not something that's, most of the time, it's not something that is going to, you know, affect you your entire life. Now, if somebody reacts to your emotions toward that thing that isn't maybe you know, they don't think it's as important as you do at the time, that can have a detrimental effect into
Right.
adulthood. But I feel like validating those feelings and empathizing with those feelings and then trying to help them move through it
Perspective.
and give them some perspective, I think that is really important. And
Yeah.
you know, to try to minimize the trauma that could come back later
Right.
because of
Yeah. And, you know, one thing when I think back on being raised, mom, and you know, there were times that I think it was helpful that my childish problems, I guess, the things that caused me pain and grief as a child, that sometimes those things were, for lack of a better word, minimized. Because even though it maybe didn't feel great at the time, it kind of maybe instilled a little bit of maybe that wasn't such a big deal. You know what I mean?
That's some resilience.
Where it felt like it was. Yeah, and I don't think that anybody should lean so far into that they're making a kid feel stupid for it.
Right,
And I'm
sure.
not, that never happened. But it, you know, I remember times, and I can't remember any specifics, but times where like, Mom, like this. Like, oh, okay. You know,
where you thought it was super
I'm like,
important and
what? Oh, okay. Like, that's all I get. But you know, and I don't know that was ever like an intentional thing.
Yeah.
But it was a thing, and so I think it does kind of warrant. You know, we have a lot of different ways of looking at what kids are going through, and saying, should we validate? Yes, validate the feelings that you get. Should you validate that situation is worth those kind of feelings? Maybe not.
probably not.
You know, like I don't know if we have psychologists listening, if you know these are the right words to say to a kid. I don't know. I'm not that.
Right.
But I can say that I'm not going to say that this little thing is worth those kind. I think that you feeling that way, child, is valid.
Yes.
Right.
do I wish that you could see it the way others or the way that we see it and maybe it didn't hurt you so bad? Of course.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that that's worth it. I don't think that it's worth you feeling as horrible as you feel and as hopeless as you feel and as at the end of your rope as you feel because of that. Understanding that emotions are complicated and that there's so many different things
Right.
piling on,
Right.
and that most of the time it isn't just caused by one thing. It's a compilation of
compilation
of
or
a,
what?
of a million different things
Right.
that, whether it's past traumas or relationships or situations or just experiences, friends, family, social media, all this
School,
stuff.
there's pressure, there's
piling on, and you end up
that's
with
a lot. And we didn't, growing up, we didn't have social media. That's one thing we didn't have to worry about. That adds a whole new level to bullying and that kind of stuff. And
Total
it's like,
different.
good
Right.
Lord, like
So I can
don't
remember when talking about the emotions and reacting like to the situation. We had a dog. You guys remember Hannah? And she was petrified of thunderstorms. She hated them. She would turn circles in the bathroom and drool and hide in the closet, and she was just terrible. Well, when we took her to the vet and tried to get her some medication and stuff, we found out from the vet that we were part of the problem because she was afraid of the thunder, but we played into it by, oh, poor Hannah, poor baby, poor baby. And that just fed into her fear. And I think as parents, we can do that too. And so maybe that's kind of what I was attempting to do with you kids as you grew up. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a thing, but okay, let's move on because,
Right.
we can be sad today right now for this moment, but let's move on to the next thing. And thankfully it worked.
Yeah. And, some of that I'm sure comes with specific scenarios and situations
Sure.
and all that. And, there's never a one equation for everybody. And to be able to get those things instilled into their kids.
Right.
So I do want to talk about my other kid and kind of some thoughts about what I would instill in them. Because I think it's different for me. I wouldn't, Mom, you mentioned happiness. If I had to go back and choose one thing, it'd be that for everybody.
Sure. Yeah.
But if I just try to zoom in a little bit more and choose something specific, because happiness
Right.
is the goal, I think, for everybody everywhere.
Right.
So it's kind of like saying if you could have the superpowers of any superhero, who would you choose? Everyone should choose Superman. It's the cop out answer, but it's the right answer because it has all the things. It's the epitome of good, right? So happiness is Superman, in my opinion, because that's the ultimate goal, right?
The rebel in me says Batman,
Right. But if you had
but
to,
he doesn't have any superpowers. So.
right. So you'd be just like you
So
are
I'd be
now. Can I
that'd
have
be
his bank
stupid.
account? Because then I'd take Batman.
I just
Can
want
have
that
Bruce-
suit in that car, man.
Yeah.
I
Black
want his
leather.
car.
Take a little ride in my
Love
love
my
machine,
baby.
baby.
Whoop.
I'm Bones.
So
Your bones.
stupid.
Mom's bones.
We watched that movie way too
Yep.
often. And if you know, put it in the comments if you know what movie that's from. If you do,
Yeah. Yeah.
specific movie.
Specifically. If you say Batman, you're wrong. Anyway, so I think about my other kid, and can you instill is it fair to say focus?
I was going to say calm.
Right. Calm would be good too. I think that if I could
Oh, that's a characteristic.
instill some focus, I think that they would be happier. I think that a lot of things in her life would feel less overwhelming with some magic focus. And I want that for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
to be grounded.
Oh, yeah.
I can ground her.
Oh, you know what I mean. No, you can't.
No, I can't. Well, yeah, she
Nice.
still lives in my house. I can
Well.
to an extent, but yeah,
Kind of.
she's an adult child now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I think that's a good one.
okay.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's
And
fair.
Like
we
if you
said-
could like put up like a thing that only let one thing at a time come through.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, a
instead of
filter.
having yeah.
If I could filter or that thing has several different holes that you can put things in them so it doesn't all
Right.
come
Yeah.
in like a fire hose. It's,
Right, exactly.
It's, organized.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of families out there that are really relating to this.
Oh, yeah, I'm
because,
sure.
I would
You
think
know,
so, yeah.
we're all in the same boat.
Yeah. Boy.
Boy.
Toy
Shoy
boy.
Boy, boy.
Toy
Shoy
boy.
Boy, boy.
Showy boys.
Mom, I do think I'm going to put you on the spot here a little
Oh,
bit, if
great.
that's all right.
Sure.
So you said that you,
What if I said no?
well,
Well, I mean,
then
you
we
don't
wouldn't
have
do
to
it.
do anything.
You're an adult too, Mom. I think that I would like to know, knowing what you do now, if you could go back and do this little magic trick with us as, let's just say teenagers, since both Lauren and I are parents of teenagers or newly retired teenagers.
Yeah.
If you could go back to our teenage years for Lauren and I, what do you think that you would magically put into our brains?
I think, well, I just totally agree with Lauren, and if I could somehow take your brain up a notch into the cosmos, into the above, where you could see that the things that you're worried about today are not what you should focus on. I mean, there's no way of giving you other focus at that time in your life. I mean, you can't. But to somehow show you that it's not worth sleepless nights over the things that maybe you are dwelling on at that time, or maybe, even how important education is maybe, and how important integrity is, and, your characteristics that you have, how important it is to be respectful and expect respect back. And I don't know, it's just hard because thinking back,
You had such perfect children. You had
Well,
nothing to
I
change.
mean, I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
I
Joking, obviously.
no, you guys were
Well,
pretty
we were not perfect.
good kids. I mean, you were normal. What I feel were normal teenage things.
Yeah.
I mean, they really were. We didn't have big issues. We didn't have mental struggles. We didn't have, alcohol or drug addiction or anything like that with you kids when you were growing up. So they were the normal, came home a little late. You got a messy room. You didn't take out the trash or mow the lawn, whatever it
Smoking
was.
cigarettes.
What was that? What'd you say?
Smoking cigarettes.
Smoking cigarettes and listening to.
Yeah, I know.
Metallica.
I wasn't gonna say Metallica, but
The things that you did that maybe I didn't know about. So.
That's you.
they found my cigarettes in my room.
Well, that's
I
a
knew
Anyway,
about it.
repressed memory.
Anyway, just, yeah, I mean, it's just not worth, it's so heartbreaking to see teenagers worried about things that honestly, we as adults and old people kind of feel like are ridiculous. Shouldn't have to worry about that. They shouldn't, that's nothing. But it is something to them,
Right.
and it is important to them, and it's important for them to know that we care and that we understand that they're going through hard times. And it's just a really difficult time.
Yeah.
It is. It's hard
Patience
to
and
relate at the same time too,
It
because
is.
it's like when your brains are in two different places. It's like it's hard not to say, "Oh, why are you freaking out about that? Like this is
Right.
nothing."
And
But you can't say. I mean, you can.
Right.
It's not
It's
going
not
to be
gonna help
beneficial.
anything.
Yeah, and there's that fine line again. We talk about fine lines a lot. You've got, okay, we're going to say, oh, no, that's silly. You shouldn't worry about that. And at the same time, you don't want to go, oh,
Oh my God.
You're right. That is the
man,
biggest
that is
thing in
the
the
biggest
world.
thing in the world, and I don't know, so it's like
What are you ever going to do? How are you ever going to get out of this?
You
yeah,
are stuck.
Right.
It's never going to end.
Right.
Yeah.
This is going to just go on forever. So, as parents, we walk a fine line every day, and you really honestly pray that you don't fall one direction or the other.
Right. And if you do, being willing, and kids will see that when you're willing to, as a parent, own a mistake and correct it and say, I overreacted to that.
Right.
I should have done things this way. I ask for your forgiveness, and I ask for you to continue to trust me, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think it's okay to
Oh,
when you
absolutely.
do step on one side of the line.
And also, don't take all the responsibility for the results. I mean, it's not like you're a total failure as a parent if you made a mistake.
Boy, is that hard to
That is
swallow, though.
I know that. I know it is. Lauren knows that. We all know that.
Yeah.
I think every parent in the world knows that, it's very easy to feel like a failure, but we're really not.
But it does.
Doing the best we can.
There's something in parenting children that connects you to your parents. Because once that happens, once you are in a parental role, you kind of start to realize, oh, that's
Now I get it.
and that is kind of what I was trying to portray earlier
Right.
when I was talking about my son, because
If you could give him
if
that
I could give him
realization.
that, when we were going through that time of like, hey, right now it might not seem, this might all seem like chaos, but when you are in either an adult role of some sort or a parenting role, if you ever are, I mean, who knows? But if you are, this will all come into focus for you, and you'll realize that this is just something that had to happen. Like this, it just will become clear to you why your parents did the things that they did and why they
Right.
dug their heels in when they did, or were lax about things when they were, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of things into perspective
It does.
when you are going through it yourself from a parental role instead of from a child role.
Right. And I think one thing before we sign off and open it up to our listeners, I think if there's one little passing thing that I can add on to the end of all this, that if I could let it be known, it's that your parents, if they're even the slightest decent parent, I'm not going to put a blanket to say that every parent is the same,
Right.
but your parent does not enjoy punishing, taking things away, putting restrictions, setting boundaries. Your parent does not enjoy that. Matter of fact, it would be the best experience for a parent if they never had to do
they
any of
didn't
those
have
things.
to, yeah.
They never felt that they had to teach a lesson through that or give a consequence because life is consequences. Life for your actions, whether it's good consequence or a bad consequence, for your actions, for the things that you do, for the situation that you're in, for the things that are arbitrarily and randomly thrown your direction, there are consequences for all of that. Some you have control over, some you don't. But as a parent, the hardest thing in the world, it's like having to, not to equate children with dogs, but it's like having to.
Well, I did it.
Well, yeah, but you can't explain to your dog why you have to leave them in a kennel, but it's the right thing to do. Well, we're not putting our kids in kennels, but at the same time, you don't want to have. You want them to know that you're not just. What are we going to do to
Right.
make
What can I
their
take
life
away
miserable?
now?
Yeah, they already got all this gone. What else? Who else can I limit them from seeing? What else
And
can I?
short of a narcissistic parent, I don't think that is anything that anybody enjoys.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's true.
So we are interested in what our listeners think on this. If you could magically instill a lesson or a characteristic or anything like that into your children, what would it be and why? Do you agree with us? Do you think that these are things that everyone kind of deals with, or is there something else you're thinking that you wish that we would have mentioned during our show? If you want to connect with us and tell us these things, you need to email us. That would be the best way to do it. And our email address, my sister's going to tell you what that is right now.
My mama done told me podcast@gmail.com.
That's it. Yeah.
That is it.
And my mom's going to tell you where you can find all of our social needs
Shoy notes.
in our show
Shoy
notes. We hope you keep your minds open and be kind to each other. Mom, it's been wonderful having you in the studio.
Great to be here finally.
It's much easier to talk.
So much.
Yeah.
Everybody take a
A
deep
collective.
breath.
I guarantee the audio sounds better this time.
I hope so.
too.
Oh, I bet it
I hope
does.
so.
Yeah, it will.
If we can get away from the video difficulties, then
Yeah.
we'll be good. But I know audio is going to be good because,
Yep.
yeah, that's what we do. Anyway, we hope you have a good night. Love you guys.
I love you
Love
too.
you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Lauren, we match colors.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
Oh, I should have worn my maroon.
You
Should've wore
should've.
your
We would have been
maroon,
matchy-matchy.
What is this called? A Dolan top or something like that?
A Dolan top?
Like Nick?
Yeah, like Nick.
A Nick Dolan top?
Just one Dolan?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, let's do this.